In the previous video, we paint this model here that we got from Sketchfab, and we use different types of brushes. We use dynamic brushes and also the symmetry to create symmetrical paintings and also radial symmetry. And we created effects like tattoos and also with a little bit of 3D extrusion, which is a fake 3D effect that we can get with normals and with height maps. So we painted also a little bit the clothing here, creating some sort of fashion design, apparel design. And we apply some zippers and seams and so on. So we experimented a lot with the various brushes that we have in Substance, and we're going to continue also to do it here in this video. Now you can always create more layers if you want to turn the various paints on and off, and sometimes it may happen that you go over with some paint layers on other parts that you don't want to paint. Now to delete those, well, we have also the eraser, and we have two types of eraser. We have standard eraser and physical eraser, just like we have like standard paint brush and physical paint. So if I use the standard here, it's just simple, and it works like the brushes. So you have a size, you have the flow, the opacity, the spacing, and everything we saw in the previous lesson about brushes. So you need to spot the layer where you want to work, and be careful here which type of eraser you use. This is the standard. So if you want to like go back to the standard brush or standard eraser, just make sure you do apply the default brush. And also sometimes you have to go back in here and select the like basic hard or basic soft or basic hard pressure. So you can see now I can paint out some effects that perhaps I don't want on the clothes and I only want on the rest of the model. So you can, get rid of some painted part that you didn't want to paint actually on that part of the model. Especially if you don't have like the clothes separated from the rest of the model, you may want to use the eraser just as you use the brush to fix all these parts right here. Now, if you want to use also um, more complex eraser, so let's use, for example, here, this eraser on these effects that we applied on the clothing in layer 1. So I can use also like, all these different types of brushes to create different types of erasers. So you can erase in a different way, not uniform, but using all these, kind of particles and things. Now, some of these are ABR brushes, so you can create those also in Photoshop. Let's adjust the size so you see how many effects we can get in the combination with the razor and the actual brushes. And some of these are dynamic. This symbol here means dynamic, which means that I can use it either like this in a static fashion, or I can switch to a physical eraser. So that's gonna be something like this, which is kind of randomized. It's gonna go like all over the place in a way. So that's another way you can either paint or erase. So if I use instead here the physical, you can see now we are in the physical paint. So I need to choose again a type of brush, and then I can paint like this using this kind of randomized particle effects. These are particles essentially. Now in this lesson, I want to use another assets, and I want to show you a couple of like jackets or again apparel design objects or fashion design. Now this one here is kind of a cyberpunk jacket that I can find in Sketchfab, and this is the wireframe just to show you that it's not photogrammetry. This is modeled and sculpted again using software like 3ds Max or ZBrush or Modbox or whatever. So we have all the different maps again here that define the metalness, the roughness, the normal map. So all the details are mainly not actually sculpted, but they are like fake 3D effects that have been applied using techniques of painting and sculpting, again, in software like ZBrush or similar. or also Blender. And then we also have an emission channel right here that is gonna emit light. This is all these effects, you can do it in Substance Painter. Now this is the final render result, and it looks really amazing. Now I want to do I want to use another jacket here. That you'll find other jackets, by the way, in Sketchfab, but the one I chosen is this one here, which is really simple. And this is again not a model, but this is simple photogrammetry. So if I go here in the model inspector, you can see that, well, it has some textures like the normal map also, but it has the if you see the wireframe, this is a photogrammetry, so it has all these triangles. So it's not like a perfect geometry and topology mostly. So we can use it in this video just to try again with different effects. And we're gonna apply also some decals, some graphics, some logos. So we're gonna do kind of fashion design again, apparel design and applied graphics. So go here, download the 3D model. You'll find this in FBX. So it's fine to use FBX because we're not gonna use the textures here. We're just gonna use the model. And if you want to use the text also, remember you can use directly the GLTF. But we're gonna do with the FBX right now. And also I wanna show you how you can apply more brushes and import more brushes, not only graphics, using ABR. So this website here called Brush Easy has some ABR. So you can also just search for on the web. You can just search for free ABR brushes or brush, and you'll find many websites. So I've gone here in the first result, and here we can set the brushes. We can set like Creative Commons and free brushes. So I've selected this one here, but you have so many, and this is just one website. You have so many websites. So let's use this. I'm gonna click here on free download. I'm gonna wait. It's gonna ask me where I want to save it, and I created a folder called brushes inside my Photoshop folder of the course, and there it is. So I'm just gonna open it up. Make sure you extract this, otherwise it won't be readable. So I'm gonna extract this, and there you go. So we have the ABR file format right there that we can install or import inside Substance Painter. So I'm gonna bring everything down here and go back to Substance Painter. So let's create a new file. And this time I just want to create a standard selection here. So template, I want to choose any template. Just going to start with simple selection and import the model from Sketchfab. Again, usually you have a source folder. Inside there is a model. Make sure everything is extracted, otherwise it won't be visible. So you need to extract the model, you need to extract the textures, everything you need, and then you can select it and you can open it up. And so let's open it and discard all the other changes. And here I'm going to choose the free rotation. I'm going to hold the Alt key, I'm going to rotate it, hold the Shift key to rotate it, and I want to work mainly on the back right here. And we can start to paint, and we can see that we can actually paint. So make sure that this is usable. And if we want to go and check the mapping, you can see that because it's done with photogrammetry, the mapping is not quite good. So it's not good because I cannot actually paint exactly here in the 2D. So I will mainly work in the 3D. But if you have a nice envelope mapping, you can also paint directly in 2D here. But we're gonna do that later on. We're gonna do that example later on. So let's work just on the 3D right here, and we can start to paint right away. Now, the first thing I want to do is use also the new brush that I need to install. So I'll go here in the libraries, press on the plus icon, go to add resources, or just go to file, import resources, and I'm gonna select which resources I want to import. And in this case, I'm gonna navigate into my Photoshop course folder, into my brushes, and there it is, my new brush right there. So I'm gonna double click there, select that file, open it up, and you can see automatically the text that this is a brush. So I can just say, okay, import. And there you go. Now this one is the new imported, you see here imported resources,